This experience happened when several of my cousins and I got together and went to my uncle's farm near a town called Piedras Negras in Mexico. My uncle has a large farm in a place called Ejido El Maral, where he used to raise many horses. Since the place was on top of a hill, it was an isolated area with no human activity. Even the houses were far apart from each other. Although some workers would come to my uncle's farm during the day, he was all alone in that vast plantation at night. But my uncle wasn't afraid because he always carried a large shotgun with him. So one Friday around noon, about 7 or 8 of us cousins arrived there. My uncle's farm consisted of a large horse stable, a vast open space beyond it, and forest further ahead. Attached to the farm itself was my uncle's small house, which was reasonably well equipped. But since we went there to have a blast, we didn't stay inside the house. Instead, we made arrangements for camping in that large open ground. We pitched tents and set up camp there. Our plan was to stay for at least 3 nights. We pitched the tents, lit a fire, and sat around it talking. By then, it was 8 p.m. Then we popped open some beers and started celebrating the night with songs and jokes. Meanwhile, 2 of my cousins were busy preparing dinner over the fire itself. My cousin and I went to the back of my uncle's house to gather firewood. Although the entire area was forested, there was a meadow-like area before the forest began. There were some old swings that my uncle had built for us long ago. Near the side of the house, some of my uncle's old rusted vehicles were also parked. Our childhood games were all played there. There was also a river nearby where we used to go fishing sometimes. But in the middle of the pitch darkness that night, looking at that forest, I started feeling a sense of fear. Moreover, since we had all watched the horror movie The Blair Witch Project that night, there was a strange dread about standing in that isolated place. As the 2 of us were gathering wood from among the trees, something caught my eye. When I looked closely, it was a cross, 2 pieces of wood tied together with wire. Along with it, there were some other items, as if someone had intentionally hidden them at the base of a tree. As we picked up that cross, another object tied to it came up as well. Do you know what it was? A small doll. A doll made of small sticks and scraps of cloth, like a voodoo doll. We were completely surprised to see it. My cousin wondered why such a thing would be behind my uncle's house. He suggested maybe my uncle made it for fun. I thought the same. What else could it be? We left the doll there and returned to the camp with the firewood. Back at the camp, we all had dinner and lost track of time with more beer, songs, and dancing. When we checked, it was already 1 a.m. Since we were intoxicated, we didn't feel the cold at first, but as time passed, the cold intensified. Being a hilly region, there was heavy mist at night. Finally, 3 of us couldn't bear the cold and went inside my uncle's house to sleep. Only 5 of us remained outside in the camp, but none of us felt like sleeping. As always, when cousins gather, you can't sleep without telling ghost stories, so we started talking about ghosts. Everyone shared their stories. My oldest cousin told an old incident. Years ago, while he was fishing in that river with his father, he allegedly heard someone screaming in pain from the forest. Upon hearing it, his father turned toward the forest, shouted some abuses, and ran away with him to safety. He said he had heard from many people that there were some terrifying powers in that forest. When the atmosphere turned grim with all the ghost stories, and since we had to go fishing the next morning, we decided to sleep. My cousin and I were in one tent, and the other 3 were in another. Exhausted from the beer, we fell asleep as soon as we lay down. Sometime during my sleep, I really had to urinate. I slowly poked my head out to see if it was dawn, but it was still pitch dark outside. I thought I'd go and take care of business near those old vehicles of my uncle's. To be honest, I am someone who wears glasses, but I wasn't wearing them then. It was very silent outside. The sounds of sheep and dogs could be heard from somewhere far away, typical nighttime sounds. I finished my business and turned around when my eyes fell on the swing nearby. Someone was sitting on it, swinging slowly. At first glance, I thought it was one of my cousins. Maybe they went there to talk to a girlfriend. Because of the darkness and my lack of vision without glasses, I didn't pay much attention, and went back to my tent. But as soon as I reached the tent, I heard a terrifying scream from among those old vehicles, like humans screaming in agony. It was a horrible sound. However, all my cousins were snoring away in their drunken stupor. I quickly grabbed my glasses and looked out of the tent again to see who was screaming like that. The sight I saw outside shocked me. It was a goat. It had stood in the exact spot where I had urinated moments ago. Its cry was frightening, yet the even more terrifying thing was that it was standing on its 2 legs. It was looking straight at me. Then it slowly started moving toward the nearby swing on those 2 legs. It sat there and began to cry terrifyingly again, as if enduring great pain. But in truth, I could clearly see that it wasn't in any pain at all, and that it was all just an act. But why should a goat act like this? Meanwhile, another cousin of mine who was sleeping inside the house came out. His eyes went straight to the goat swinging on the swing. Seeing that, he screamed in fear. Hearing his voice, the rest of the cousins and my uncle inside the house woke up. As soon as my uncle woke up, he rushed out with his shotgun. Seeing this, the goat started running toward the forest, but this time it ran on all 4s. My uncle fired a shot at it, but I don't think it hit, because it didn't stop. But what happened next was bizarre. The goat, which was running on all 4s when it reached the edge of the forest, suddenly stood up on its 2 legs. Then it turned toward us and with a terrifying roar vanished into the woods. Later, my uncle told us that it was a cursed demon of this forest, half man and half goat. It has supposedly been in these forests for centuries. Everyone here knows about it. I asked my uncle about the cross and the doll we had seen. Then he said the villagers working on the farm had buried it there to keep that demon away, but we had removed it that night. Perhaps that's why the demon came there. The next incident takes place in New York, in my house. I lived there with my sister and my parents. My parents mostly worked night shifts, so one day in the evening, my father had night duty and left for the office around 7 p.m. My mother was a nurse. Because of her hospital work, her shifts would sometimes extend to 12 or 15 hours. Although she didn't have a night shift that day, it was 10 p.m. when she reached home. Since she was coming after working a long time, my mother was always very exhausted. That day, too, after talking to us for a while, she went to the upstairs room. She fell asleep on the bed without even changing her clothes. It must have been about half an hour since she arrived. Around 11 p.m., someone knocked on our door. Who would come at 11 p.m. in this pouring rain? My sister and I were watching TV. We were sure it wasn't our father, so who was it? My sister dragged me to the door. We asked, "Who is it?" from inside, but there was no reply. We asked several times. The strange thing was that the person outside was knocking, but they wouldn't say their name. We didn't open the door. Instead, we ran straight upstairs to my mother. Even though she was fast asleep, she felt something was wrong when she heard this. My mother feared that some thieves might be trying to enter the house, taking advantage of the bad weather. Gathering courage, she went to the kitchen, took a large knife, and slowly came near the door. My mother also raised her voice and asked who was outside, but there was no reply. She didn't open the door. Instead, she moved the curtain of a nearby window and looked out. But there was no one outside, nothing but pitch darkness. My sister, my mother, and I were standing in front of that window. My mother and sister didn't see anything, but since I was standing slightly to the side, I could see a very tall shadow standing about 10 feet away from the window. It wasn't clear because of the darkness, but I was certain that a person about 7 or 8 feet tall was standing there. Perhaps I was only able to see it because of the specific spot where I stood. There's no one outside. It must have been your imagination because of the wind and rain. I didn't say anything more to her. The 3 of us went and sat in the drawing room. Everyone's sleep was gone. My mother started feeling very hungry because she had gone to sleep without eating. There was a restaurant near our house that stayed open all night. "You two sit here. I'll go buy something to eat," she said. This wasn't a new thing. She had bought food from there at night before. She took an umbrella and went out. About 5 minutes after she left, There was a knock on the door again. Thinking it was my mother, I called out, "Is that you, Mom?" For 10 seconds there was no reply. Then a voice came from outside. "Sam, it's me. Open the door." It was definitely my mother's voice, but there was no emotion in it, a kind of cold tone. "Sam, open the door quickly." The same voice said again. This time I opened the door. My mother herself was standing outside, soaked in the rain, with empty hands. She hadn't brought any food. My sister and I felt something was off. She walked straight in and sat on the sofa. She started looking around as if she had come to someone else's house. All her movements were very strange. If she looked in one direction for a minute, the next minute she would jerk her head and look the other way. Seeing this strange behavior, we asked, "Mom, what happened?"